For a long time, people believed that success in life was determined by one thing: intelligence. We were told that IQ was the key, that the sharper your mind, the further you would go. Schools rewarded quick answers, society praised analytical brilliance, and companies hired based on credentials and test scores. And yet, as the years passed, a truth emerged that no one could ignore. Some of the brightest people were failing in relationships, failing in leadership, failing to handle the pressures of life. At the same time, others, perhaps not the most academically gifted, were thriving. They built strong friendships, inspired loyalty, led with vision, and created lasting impact. What separated these two groups was not how smart they were on paper, but how emotionally intelligent they were in practice. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize and manage your own emotions, to understand and respond to the emotions of others, and to navigate the complexity of human life with balance, empathy, and wisdom. Unlike IQ, which is mostly fixed, emotional intelligence can grow. It can be nurtured, strengthened, and refined through awareness and practice. And the impact is profound. Emotional intelligence influences how we respond to stress, how we resolve conflict, how we motivate ourselves, and how we connect with others. It affects whether we sabotage opportunities with impulsive reactions or seize them with calm clarity. It determines whether we shut down in the face of pain or learn resilience from it. In many ways, emotional intelligence matters more than IQ because it governs the very skills that allow us to use our knowledge effectively. Think of a brilliant student who can solve complex equations but cannot control their anger. Think of a talented professional who knows their craft inside out but alienates every teammate through arrogance. Think of a leader with bold vision who collapses under pressure because they never learn to regulate their fear. These are not failures of knowledge. They are failures of emotional awareness, and they remind us that intelligence alone is not enough. Emotional intelligence adds the missing dimension. It is self-awareness that allows you to pause before reacting. It is self-regulation that keeps you steady when storms arrive. It is empathy that lets you feel the world through another person's eyes. It is motivation that fuels persistence when the odds seem impossible. It is social skill that builds trust, creates cooperation, and turns strangers into allies. Together, these qualities shape the kind of life we live, the kind of relationships we build, and the kind of legacy we leave behind. Emotional intelligence is not about suppressing feelings. It is about understanding them, learning from them, and using them wisely. It is not about being agreeable or soft. It is about being resilient, adaptable, and deeply human. And perhaps most importantly, it is about realizing that our emotional lives are not obstacles to intelligence, they are its partners. To think clearly, to act wisely, and to live meaningfully, we must embrace the intelligence of the heart as much as the intelligence of the mind. This is the secret to emotional intelligence, that success, happiness, and connection are less about what you know and more about how you live, how you love, and how you understand yourself and others.
When we talk about emotional intelligence, it is easy to confuse it with simply being nice, agreeable, or empathetic. But emotional intelligence is not about putting on a smile or avoiding conflict to keep the peace. It is far deeper and far more powerful. Emotional intelligence is the capacity to understand yourself and others on a level that goes beyond logic alone. It is the recognition that while knowledge and skills can open doors, emotions are what move us through them. Emotional intelligence begins with the awareness that feelings are not random noise to be ignored, but signals carrying meaning. Anger reveals boundaries. Fear points to vulnerability. Joy highlights what matters most. Sadness honors what has been lost. These emotions, when noticed and understood, become guides instead of burdens. Without that awareness, we live reactively, pulled by feelings we don't comprehend, making choices that undermine us without realizing why. But when we develop emotional intelligence, we gain the ability to pause, to see what is happening inside ourselves, and to choose how we respond. That pause is the difference between lashing out in anger and calmly addressing a problem, between giving up in despair and holding on with resilience, between shutting someone out and choosing to listen. This is why emotional intelligence is not a luxury. It is a necessity for living well. It shows itself not in grand theories, but in everyday life. Imagine a leader who knows every technical detail of their industry, but cannot earn the trust of their team. Their knowledge may be vast, but without emotional intelligence, they will fail to inspire. Now picture a teacher who may not have the most advanced credentials, but who notices the unspoken struggles of a student, who offers encouragement at just the right moment, and who makes learning feel possible. That is emotional intelligence in action. It turns ordinary interactions into life-changing experiences. At its core, emotional intelligence rests on 5 pillars: self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill. Self-awareness means you can look inward with honesty and recognize your emotions without being consumed by them. Self-regulation means you can manage those emotions, redirecting them rather than suppressing them. Motivation means you can use your emotional energy to drive action, persistence, and purpose. Empathy means you can feel with others, stepping into their world and seeing through their eyes. And social skill means you can build relationships, resolve conflicts, and influence others not by force, but by connection. These 5 elements weave together into a fabric that supports success in every area of life. What makes this concept so powerful is that emotional intelligence is not fixed. Unlike IQ, which research shows is relatively stable, EQ is malleable. It grows with intention and practice. Every moment of reflection, every effort to pause instead of react, every attempt to understand another person's feelings builds this capacity. It is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. And in a world filled with complexity, change, and challenge, this strength is more valuable than ever. Emotional intelligence is not the rejection of logic, but its complement. It is the realization that humans are not machines. We are driven by stories, hopes, fears, and desires. We cannot separate our decisions from our emotions, but we can learn to guide them. And when we do, we unlock a form of intelligence that goes beyond raw intellect. We unlock the ability to live with wisdom.
The journey of emotional intelligence begins with self-awareness. Without it, the other qualities, self-regulation, empathy, social skill, even motivation, struggle to take root. Self-awareness is the quiet strength of being able to look inward with honesty and recognize what you are feeling, why you are feeling it, and how those feelings are shaping your thoughts and actions. It sounds simple, but in practice, few people truly master it. Most of us move through life reacting, carried by moods we don't fully understand, letting emotions steer our behavior without pausing to notice. But self-awareness changes that. It is like turning on a light in a dark room. Suddenly, you can see the furniture clearly, navigate without stumbling, and make choices instead of bumping into things by accident. Think of a moment when anger surprised you. Perhaps someone cut you off in traffic, or dismissed your ideas in a meeting, or said something careless that struck a nerve. Without awareness, that flash of anger might take control. You honk, you snap back, you withdraw in silence. But with awareness, the experience shifts. You notice the tension in your chest, the quickening of your breath, the urge to lash out. You name it, I am angry. That small act of naming creates space. Space enough to ask, why am I angry?
Is this worth reacting to? What response will serve me best? That pause, born of self-awareness, changes everything. Self-awareness is not just about naming emotions in the heat of the moment. It is about understanding your patterns over time. Which situations drain your energy? Which environments bring out your best? What beliefs drive your behavior? Which insecurities sabotage you? The more you know about yourself, the more power you have to choose wisely. This is why self-awareness is the foundation of growth. You cannot change what you refuse to see, but once you see it, you can work with it. There is also a humility in self-awareness. It means admitting that you don't always act rationally, that your judgments are colored by emotions, that you are influenced by moods and impulses just like everyone else. That honesty doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It helps you understand your limits and blind spots. It opens the door to feedback because you are no longer protecting a fragile image of perfection. Instead, you are committed to truth, even when the truth is uncomfortable. Practical self-awareness can take many forms. Reflection at the end of the day, asking yourself what emotions dominated and why. Journaling to capture feelings before they slip away. Listening to trusted friends who see patterns you might miss. Even mindfulness practices, where you sit quietly and watch your thoughts and emotions rise and fall, can sharpen your awareness. Each practice strengthens the same muscle, the ability to notice without being consumed. In leadership, self-awareness is especially powerful. A leader who does not understand their own emotions risks spreading them unconsciously. Anxious leaders create anxious teams. Angry leaders create fearful teams. Distracted leaders create scattered teams. But a self-aware leader can own their state, manage it, and set the tone intentionally. Their awareness becomes a gift to everyone around them. At its heart, self-awareness is not about control. It is about connection. Connection to yourself, your inner world, your true motivations. It is the foundation on which all other elements of emotional intelligence are built. Without it, you live reactively. With it, you live deliberately. And when you live deliberately, you unlock the possibility of wisdom.
If self-awareness is the ability to see what is happening inside you, self-regulation is the ability to decide what you do with it. It is the difference between being a prisoner of your emotions and being their master. Self-regulation does not mean suppression. It does not mean pretending you don't feel anger, fear, jealousy, or sadness. Those feelings are human, and they carry important signals. But without regulation, emotions can take over, pushing us into words and actions that harm ourselves and others. With regulation, we create space. We slow the reaction. We choose the response. And in doing so, we protect our integrity and our relationships. Think of a time when stress overwhelmed you. Perhaps a deadline loomed. Tensions rose and pressure mounted. Without regulation, stress can spill into panic, irritability, or burnout. But with regulation, you pause, breathe, and prioritize. You find clarity even in the storm. This is the heart of self-regulation, the ability to remain steady under pressure, to bend without breaking, and to act in line with your values rather than your impulses. Leaders without self-regulation often leave wreckage behind them. They lash out in anger, creating fear in their teams. They panic in uncertainty, spreading chaos instead of calm. They allow frustration to seep into their tone, their decisions, their relationships. But leaders with self-regulation inspire trust. Even in crisis, they project steadiness. People know they won't overreact, won't abandon reason, won't let fear dictate their choices. Their composure becomes a source of stability for everyone around them. For all of us, self-regulation is a daily practice. It shows up in the small moments. Choosing not to send an email while emotions are hot. Waiting a day before making a big decision. Pausing to listen instead of interrupting. Letting go of the need to control what you cannot change.
These choices build resilience. They create a pattern of living where you are guided by principle, not just by mood. Practical tools can help. Mindfulness trains the brain to notice emotions without being consumed. Reframing helps us reinterpret stressful situations in a more constructive way. Even simple breathing techniques can slow the body's stress response, giving the mind time to catch up. The more we practice, the more automatic regulation becomes. But self-regulation is not just about control. It is also about freedom. When you can regulate your emotions, you are free to act with clarity instead of being dragged by impulse. You are free to remain calm when others lose their balance. You are free to choose kindness over retaliation, patience over frustration, courage over fear. That freedom is one of the most empowering gifts of emotional intelligence. At its core, self-regulation is the art of holding steady in the face of life's turbulence. It is the discipline to feel deeply but act wisely. It is the quiet strength that transforms emotion from a force that controls you into a force you can channel. And it is one of the clearest signs of true maturity, the ability to be bigger than the moment, to choose the response that builds, heals, and leads forward.
If self-awareness gives us clarity and self-regulation gives us steadiness, motivation gives us movement. It is the inner drive that keeps us going when the path is long, when obstacles appear, when progress feels slow. Motivation is the fire of emotional intelligence, the ability to direct our emotions toward purpose rather than distraction. Unlike fleeting bursts of inspiration, true motivation is steady. It carries us through challenges, not because they are easy, but because what lies on the other side matters deeply to us. Think of the difference between someone who works only for a paycheck and someone who works because they believe in what they are building. Both may face long hours, setbacks, and stress, but one feels drained, while the other feels alive. That difference is motivation at its core, finding meaning in what you do and letting that meaning energize you. Emotional intelligence strengthens this by helping us connect with our values, align our actions with purpose, and push through when fear or fatigue tempts us to stop. Motivation and emotional intelligence is not about ignoring difficulty. It is about reframing it. A setback is not the end. It is information, a chance to learn, a step toward resilience. People with high emotional intelligence don't avoid discomfort. They see it as part of growth. They find motivation not in perfection, but in progress. Each small step forward fuels the next, creating momentum that carries them further than raw talent alone ever could. There is also joy in motivation. It is not just discipline and grit. It is the spark of curiosity, the thrill of learning, the satisfaction of moving closer to something you care about. This kind of motivation doesn't need constant external rewards because it is self-sustaining. It comes from the inside, from passion and purpose. When setbacks arise, as they always do, this inner drive keeps you grounded. You don't quit because you're motivated not by applause, but by meaning. For leaders, motivation is contagious. A leader who embodies purpose inspires their team to push harder, care more, and believe in the mission. A leader who lacks it drains energy from the group no matter how skilled they may be. Motivation shows up in tone, in persistence, in the willingness to face challenges with optimism. Teams reflect what they see. If they see resilience, they grow resilient. If they see defeat, they crumble. Motivation can be nurtured by clarity. Ask yourself, what am I working toward? Why does it matter? What value is this serving? Without answers, motivation fades. With answers, even the most difficult tasks feel meaningful. Another way to cultivate motivation is through celebrating small wins.
Recognizing progress fuels momentum. Each step completed becomes evidence that more is possible. And when setbacks occur, as they inevitably will, motivation reminds us that failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of it. At its heart, motivation and emotional intelligence is not about chasing rewards or avoiding punishment. It is about aligning your actions with your deeper values and allowing that alignment to fuel you. It is about waking up each day with something bigger than yourself to move toward. And it is about choosing to keep going, not because it is easy, but because it is worth it.
If self-awareness helps us understand ourselves and self-regulation helps us manage our emotions, empathy is what connects us to the emotions of others. Empathy is the bridge between human hearts. It is the ability to sense, to feel, and to understand the world through another person's perspective. Without empathy, emotional intelligence collapses inward, focused only on the self. With empathy, it expands outward, creating bonds of trust, compassion, and cooperation that make life richer and communities stronger. Empathy is often misunderstood as simply feeling sorry for someone. But sympathy and empathy are not the same. Sympathy stands at a distance and says, "I feel bad for you." Empathy steps closer and says, "I feel with you." It is not pity, it is presence. It is the willingness to step into someone else's shoes, to see with their eyes, and to listen with their ears. That presence is powerful. It makes people feel seen, heard, and valued in ways that intellect alone never can. Think of the moments in your life when someone truly listened to you, not half-listened, not waiting for their turn to speak, but gave you their full attention. You probably remember how it felt like your thoughts mattered, like your emotions had weight. That is the gift of empathy. It doesn't solve every problem, but it creates the foundation for trust. And trust is the soil where every healthy relationship grows. Empathy is also practical. In friendships, it deepens connection. In families, it creates harmony. In workplaces, it builds collaboration. A team without empathy may achieve short bursts of progress, but it will fracture under stress. A team with empathy weathers storms because people are willing to support each other, to forgive mistakes, and to lift one another when energy runs low. Empathy is not weakness, it is strength, because it binds people together. Yet empathy requires effort. It asks us to pause our judgments, to quiet our assumptions, and to open ourselves to experiences we may not fully understand. Sometimes it means sitting in discomfort, holding space for someone's pain without rushing to fix it. Sometimes it means adjusting our behavior because we recognize how it affects others. And sometimes it means challenging someone gently because true empathy is not about agreeing with everything. It is about caring enough to be honest. In leadership, empathy is transformative. Leaders who lead without empathy may get compliance, but they rarely earn loyalty. Leaders with empathy inspire people to go further because they know their leader cares. Empathy allows leaders to sense unspoken tensions, to notice when someone is struggling, and to adapt their approach to bring out the best in their teams. It is not manipulation, it is connection, and it turns authority into influence. The beauty of empathy is that it can be strengthened. We build it by listening more deeply, by asking questions, by exposing ourselves to different perspectives, cultures, and experiences. We build it by slowing down enough to notice what others are feeling, even when they don't say it outright. And each act of empathy makes us not only better companions, colleagues, and leaders, but better humans. At its core, empathy is a reminder that we are not alone. It is the quiet recognition that every person you meet
carries struggles you may not see and dreams you may not know. To live with empathy is to live with compassion, patience, and respect for that hidden depth. And when we cultivate empathy, we do more than connect with others. We honor the very humanity we all share.
If empathy is the ability to feel with others, social skill is the ability to act on that understanding in ways that build trust, cooperation, and connection. Social skill is where emotional intelligence becomes visible, where the internal qualities of awareness, regulation, motivation, and empathy translate into the external behaviors that shape relationships. It is not about charm, manipulation, or winning people over with surface-level charisma. It is about genuine human connection, the ability to communicate clearly, to resolve conflict gracefully, to collaborate effectively, and to inspire trust in every interaction. Social skill begins with communication. Words matter, but so does tone, body language, and presence. People with strong social skills listen more than they speak. They don't just wait for their turn. They pay attention, respond thoughtfully, and make others feel valued. Their communication isn't about dominating the conversation, it's about creating understanding. That quality alone can transform relationships because people remember not just what was said, but how they felt when they were heard. But social skill also shows itself in the way we handle conflict. Disagreements are inevitable. People see the world differently, and those differences can lead to tension. Someone with high emotional intelligence doesn't avoid conflict, they approach it constructively. They acknowledge differences, seek common ground, and resolve disputes without damaging trust. This doesn't mean they always find perfect agreement, but they create resolution that leaves relationships intact, sometimes even stronger. Social skill is equally important in collaboration. No matter how talented you are, most of life's achievements require cooperation. Teams rise and fall on their ability to work together. A socially skilled person knows how to bring people together, how to draw out quiet voices, how to balance strong personalities, and how to create an atmosphere where everyone feels part of the mission. This is why leaders with social skill are so effective. They don't just give orders, they foster unity. Another key aspect is influence. Influence is not about control, it is about inspiration. People with high social skill don't push others with pressure. They pull them with vision and trust. They know how to persuade without manipulation, to rally people around a shared purpose, and to make others feel like partners rather than subordinates. This ability to influence through connection rather than authority is one of the hallmarks of great leadership. Yet social skill is not reserved for leaders or extroverts. Anyone can strengthen it because at its core it is about awareness and practice. Asking questions instead of assuming, expressing appreciation sincerely and often, being willing to apologize when you are wrong, choosing curiosity over defensiveness. Each of these actions builds stronger bonds. In today's world where technology often reduces interaction to screens and text, social skill has never been more important. At the end of the day, the quality of our lives is measured by the quality of our relationships. Success, wealth, and recognition may bring temporary satisfaction, but what sustains us are the connections we share with others, family, friends, partners, colleagues, and communities. And this is where emotional intelligence shows its deepest value. EQ is the unseen thread that shapes how we connect, how we love, how we resolve conflict, and how we grow alongside one another. Without it, even the strongest bonds can fray. With it, relationships become resilient, meaningful, and enduring. Emotional intelligence in relationships begins with awareness of self. You cannot show up honestly for others if you are blind to your own emotions. Self-awareness allows you to notice when irritation colors your tone, when insecurity drives your reactions, or when unspoken fears create distance. By catching these patterns, you prevent them from silently eroding trust. In the same way, self-regulation allows you to respond with intention rather than impulse. Instead of snapping back in anger,
you pause. Instead of withdrawing in silence, you choose to share openly. These small acts preserve relationships and keep conflicts from spiraling into deeper wounds. Empathy, of course, is at the heart of every connection. To be seen and understood is one of the deepest human needs. When you listen with empathy, when you allow yourself to feel what another is feeling, you create a bond that goes beyond words. Relationships thrive not on perfect agreement, but on mutual understanding. Partners who practice empathy build resilience in their love. Parents who practice empathy earn their children's trust. Friends who practice empathy carry each other through life's storms. But empathy alone is not enough. Relationships also require social skill, the ability to communicate, to resolve disagreements, to express appreciation, and to repair when harm is done. Many relationships falter not because the love is gone, but because the skills of maintaining connection are weak. People stop listening. Gratitude is taken for granted. Conflicts are left unresolved. Emotional intelligence strengthens these areas by giving us the tools to keep relationships alive through practice, not just sentiment. Another way EQ shapes relationships is through the courage to be vulnerable. When you share your fears, admit mistakes, or reveal your true feelings, you invite intimacy. Vulnerability is often mistaken for weakness, but in relationships, it is the opposite. It is the foundation of trust. Emotional intelligence gives you the self-awareness to know when to open up and the regulation to do so with honesty rather than panic. It creates space for others to be vulnerable too, deepening the bond. Perhaps the greatest gift EQ brings to relationships is resilience. Every relationship will face stress, disagreements, distance, disappointments, changes. Without emotional intelligence, these challenges can fracture bonds. With it, they become opportunities for growth. Empathy helps you see from the other person's perspective. Self-regulation helps you avoid saying what you cannot take back. Motivation helps you stay committed when things are difficult. Social skill helps you repair, rebuild, and recommit. These qualities do not prevent conflict, they transform it. In the workplace, emotional intelligence shapes professional relationships just as powerfully.
The workplace is often where emotional intelligence reveals itself most clearly. In professional settings, pressure is constant, personalities collide, and the stakes can feel high. Here, raw intelligence and technical skill are valuable, but they are rarely enough. What determines whether teams succeed, whether leaders inspire, and whether organizations thrive is not just what people know, but how they relate, respond, and connect. Emotional intelligence in this context is not a soft advantage. It is the backbone of performance. At the individual level, emotional intelligence shapes how people manage stress, take feedback, and handle conflict. A professional who can stay calm under pressure, regulate frustration, and communicate respectfully, even when challenged, quickly earns trust. Their presence is stabilizing. Compare this to someone who is brilliant but volatile. A single outburst can undo months of effort. A sharp tone can fracture a relationship. An unchecked arrogance can erode collaboration. Technical brilliance without emotional control creates fragility. Emotional intelligence creates resilience. For teams, EQ determines whether collaboration is genuine or forced. A team high in emotional intelligence communicates openly, listens actively, and resolves disagreements constructively. Members support each other through setbacks and share credit in success. They don't need constant oversight because trust and empathy guide their behavior. In contrast, teams low in EQ often dissolve into silos and blame, wasting energy on politics instead of progress. Emotional intelligence turns a group of individuals into a true unit. Leaders, perhaps more than anyone else, need emotional intelligence. A leader's emotional state ripples through the organization.
An anxious leader creates anxious teams. A calm and confident leader gives others courage. A leader without empathy may push results, but burn people out in the process. A leader with empathy inspires loyalty that outlasts challenges. Bill Campbell himself, the trillion-dollar coach, often reminded leaders that the role of a manager is not just to direct work, but to coach people, to understand them, guide them, and help them grow. That is emotional intelligence at its highest level in the workplace. Emotional intelligence also plays a critical role in innovation and adaptability. In fast-changing industries, people need the courage to take risks, the resilience to recover from failure, and the social skills to collaborate across functions and cultures. Without EQ, fear dominates, mistakes multiply, and trust collapses. With EQ, people feel safe to experiment, to learn, and to challenge the status quo. The result is not just better morale, but greater creativity. Practical applications of emotional intelligence in the workplace are endless. It means taking the time to check in on a colleague who seems quiet instead of ignoring the signs. It means pausing before responding to a harsh email, choosing clarity over retaliation. It means giving feedback in a way that is honest but constructive, so it strengthens rather than discourages. It means celebrating team successes openly because recognition fuels motivation. Organizations that value emotional intelligence create cultures where people want to stay and contribute. They experience less turnover, higher engagement, and stronger results. That's because people don't just work for a paycheck, they work for meaning, respect, and connection. When those needs are met, performance follows naturally. At its heart, emotional intelligence in the workplace reminds us that businesses are not built by machines, systems, or spreadsheets. They are built by people. And when people feel understood, respected, and supported, they don't just do their jobs, they bring their best selves to the work. That is the quiet but undeniable power of emotional intelligence in any professional setting.
When we look toward the future, one of the most important questions we can ask is this: what kind of people are we raising, teaching, and shaping for the world ahead? Intelligence, technical skills, and knowledge will always matter, but if we want to equip the next generation to flourish, we must go deeper. Emotional intelligence is not just a tool for professionals or leaders. It is a foundation for children, students, and young adults as they step into life. It shapes how they see themselves, how they treat others, and how they handle the inevitable challenges that lie ahead. Emotional intelligence in the next generation begins with childhood. From the earliest years, children are learning how to interpret emotions, their own and those of others. A child who is taught only to achieve academically but not to manage frustration may grow brittle under pressure. A child who is scolded for crying but never shown how to process sadness may learn to bury emotions instead of understanding them. On the other hand, a child who is taught to name what they feel, to talk openly, and to respect the feelings of others develops resilience. They carry with them the ability to handle stress, resolve conflict, and form healthier relationships. Parents and educators play a vital role here. The way adults respond to children's emotions teaches them what is acceptable. When a child is angry, dismissing them with "stop overreacting" shuts down awareness. But responding with "I can see you're upset, can you tell me why?" encourages reflection. These small moments become lessons. They teach children that emotions are not threats to be feared, but information to be understood. Over time, this creates a generation better equipped to handle life's complexity. Adolescence adds another layer. As teenagers form identities and navigate social pressures, emotional intelligence becomes even more crucial. Empathy helps them build friendships rather than fall into isolation. Self-regulation keeps them from making impulsive choices that carry long consequences. Motivation guides them toward purpose instead of drifting aimlessly. Without these skills, adolescence can be a storm of confusion and conflict.
With them, it becomes a training ground for strength and wisdom. For schools, the lesson is clear. Teaching emotional intelligence is as important as teaching math or science. Academic achievement matters, but without the ability to collaborate, to handle setbacks, and to communicate effectively, knowledge alone will not prepare young people for life. Many schools now include social-emotional learning in their curricula for this reason. They understand that a child who can manage their emotions and relate to others respectfully is better prepared not only to succeed in academics, but to contribute meaningfully to society. In the workplace of tomorrow, EQ will only grow in importance. The world is becoming more interconnected, more diverse, and more uncertain. The next generation will face rapid technological change, global challenges, and cultural shifts that require adaptability. IQ may help them understand problems, but EQ will determine how they solve them together. The ability to listen across differences, to manage stress under constant change, and to inspire trust in an uncertain world will separate those who merely survive from those who lead. Passing emotional intelligence to the next generation is not just about giving them tools for success, it is about giving them tools for humanity. A child who grows into an adult with high EQ will not only be more resilient, but more compassionate. They will treat others with respect, build communities instead of divisions, and create workplaces and families where people thrive. In a world that often feels divided and fragile, the next generation's emotional intelligence may be the difference between a future of conflict and a future of connection. At its heart, EQ for the next generation is about giving them a compass. Knowledge can map the terrain, but emotions are the winds that move us. With emotional intelligence, young people can set their sails with wisdom, navigate storms with courage, and reach horizons we can only imagine.